this out. Clap your hands.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for joining me this evening. It looks like we have Sam Thomas in the chat room with me. I don't know if anyone else is here, but this is episode 3 of Tech Talk Live. I did a couple episodes either later last year or really early this year, and I'm starting to back up again. I don't know how consistent I'll be with it, but I'll definitely be doing some until Necromancer is back up and running. So who is ready to talk about voice phenomena? You know, it's been over a century since people have claimed to either believe or have experienced voices seemingly from the dead, from their loved ones especially. You know, it's been a topic of lots of, debate, lots of faith has gone into it, and a lot of people believe that voices do, transcend the grave. And I have validated a few in my 5 years of research that are impossible. They cannot happen, normally. So there's something going on there. Now, the rarity of true EVP is something that I work hard to educate people on. There's a lot of people out there that are saying that they can get an EVP every time they go out, every time they turn on recording devices, and then they got all these spirit boxes and ITC research devices out there now, and now everybody is just getting it left and right. And that's a problem, because the phenomena is very, very rare, and we need to do a better job, not only to understand the rarity of paranormal phenomena and the recurrence of it, understand how it emerges, why it's rare, and understand that, we just can't, deal with, all these false positives that the other devices are giving off all the time. You just have to accept that it's rare, and it only happens when it wants to. And that's my main issue with EVP research and voice phenomena research today. Too many people out there are just trying to use devices or use methodology that generates so much false positives that they want constant and repetitive, reassurance that they're getting something paranormal. And is what caused the current state of the paranormal field right now. And I'm trying to fight against that. I'm trying to push real research and understand the physics, the science, and the reality behind EVP. Because right now, EVP is probably the best thing that we got going for us in the field. There's been hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of people out there that's heard something that hasn't come from a living person. So with that all being said, what's up, Derek? I didn't want to forget to say what's up. If you're watching, share this video. I don't know how well it's going to be received. It's not anything scary. We don't have haunted dolls and ghost boxes going off, so I don't know how well this type of show will do. The other shows didn't do very well, but the few that are interested might watch. They may watch in post. I try to do some advertisement, but I don't know if Thursday evenings are a good time slot, but we'll find out. So, who wants to talk about the history of EVP? Everyone in the world, right? Well, as far as my research goes, it started with the development of telephones and communication devices and recorders. Okay. And the very first reference that is common is Thomas Edison. He believed that it would one day be possible to build a machine that would help humans communicate with the dead. That he once said. He's been quoted saying that. Now, he was also quoted on trying to work on a device that would do that, but there's been no proof that he has built a device, and there's no plans that on paper that he's built one, but he's quoted in saying, "And if our personality survives, then it is strictly logical or scientific to assume that it retains memory, intellect, other faculties, and knowledge that we acquire on this earth. Therefore, if we can evolve an instrument so delicate as to be affected by our personality as it survives in the next life, such an instrument, when made available, ought to record something." Unfortunately, Edison did not see his invention take shape, but he believed that it could be possible. Okay. And in 1949, Marcello Bossi of Italy began recording voices with an old tube radio. People would come to Bossi's home to talk to their departed relatives. A few years later, two Italian priests named Father Ernetti and Father Gemelli were trying to record a Gregorian chant on their magnetophone, but the machine kept breaking. Exasperated, Father Gernelli looked up and asked his father for help. To his surprise, his dead father's voice answered from the magnetophone, "Of course I shall help you. I'm always with you." So, do we know if this truly happened? No, but there has always been a belief that these strange voices have come across and they sound just like their loved ones, and that's always compelled people and inspired people, and sparked interest in the field of electronic voice phenomena. And there's more history. I mean, I can read on. Frederick Jurgensen is another big one. He's a Swedish opera singer. Was doing recordings. Dr. Konstantin Radiv, he was a psychologist. I can't pronounce his type of psychologist, but he had experience several years later. He was skeptical, but then he tried the techniques himself and wound up recording many voices, including that of his deceased mother. History starts and goes on from there. It's generally people that were audio engineers and people who did music and used recording devices regularly. Let's see if I'm keeping up with your comments. All right. So the definition of EVP is electronic voice phenomena. And what electronic voice phenomena is murky. Okay. There's no sturdy definition of what it is. Okay. The general consensus is it is a voice that is recorded or imprinted on a device that records audio that is not heard at the time of the recording, but only on playback. Okay. Now, after this, outside of that, it's up to debate and people speculate how that's possible. Is it imprinted? Is it, is the recorders able to hear it and record it and our ears not? That is what the debate has been all about. And, that is what's pretty much halted the EVP research to what it is today. It hasn't really gone much further outside the era of, the dawn of recording devices. Okay. It started on magnetophones and it went to, the magnetic tape once that started getting developed, and the analog recorders. And then when the digital age came, it didn't go away, but the understanding of how EVP come about and what causes EVP has not really gone anywhere. And that's what I've been working hard on the last 5 years to try to remedy, because we need to make some type of breakthrough to figure out if EVP is real or not. Well, I have been fortunate enough to validate a few EVPs to where, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know it was something anomalous communicating, and it's not, nothing else could be possible. I've had that sample shown on my shows before. If you're familiar with my work, in 2014, I was investigating a father and mother's home where their 14-year-old or 15-year-old daughter died in their garage, and they believe that she was still lingering and haunting them. And I ended up, long story short, recording something using white noise from a spirit box that's told her father that she loved her, or loved him, and it was only present on the recorder. It wasn't present on the audio of the recording we took of it, and all the other recorders I go in just on one device, which was astonishing. And boom, you have your EVP. So you see a lot of people out there doing things like just taking a recorder, turning it on, and then playing it back, and then listening for something that they didn't hear in real time. I'll tell you what, not only is the human memory very bad, what is heard on the playback is definitely not going to be the same sounding thing of what was going on during the recording. The reason that is since the digital age has started, especially since the digital age and handheld recorders has become popular, the representation of what we're hearing on the playback is not the same of what actually happened. The compression waves in the environment, the acoustic energy is not recorded. It's sampled and, converted back into a wave form, based on the sampling of it. And sometimes the frequency response and the bit rate could vary, and that can impact the quality of the audio. So it could be played back in a way that doesn't sound anything like it did. And you could be touching the recorder or moving around. Your clothes could be making noise, or anything in the environment can be making noise, and it can come across the recorder sounding much different than it did. So with that being said, there's ways to validate EVP, okay? Use two recorders, same exact recorders, or you can use our VPR setups like I do. Just run two of the same mics into the same recorder, a 4-channel recorder, and see if you can get the voice or the anomalous audio to come across just one of the mics. Validate it. Cross-check it with something else. Make sure that it's not just acoustic energy and contamination. People usually have large groups. They investigate where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of things making noise, appliances, all kinds of things can go wrong. Okay, so I know I've had other shows getting into the nitty gritty of these things, but we're going to focus on all the different types of voice phenomena. Hello, Marilyn. Thanks for joining us. We also have, we got Missy in here, Sam, and then we got, looks like we have Gavin Kelly in here too. So thanks for joining us. Also, outside electronic voice phenomena, we have other different types of voice phenomena. I want to kind of go through them. But before I do that, the electronic part is something I want to emphasize. If it is electronic in nature, then it doesn't matter what you use to record, an analog recorder or a digital recorder. It does not matter. It's electronic in nature. Okay, so it's a manipulation or some type of thing going on with the device, and the actual, the transducers and the mics and the method in which it imprints or puts the acoustic energy into the recording device does not matter. And it's electronic, okay? It's not stuff we hear with our ears, okay? So I want that to resonate with you folks, okay? A lot of people, they'll hear something in an environment and they're recording and like, check out this EVP, or they'll let me listen to a recording and the voice is echoing through the halls and it has all these characteristics of, something being in the environment, and I'm like, that's not an EVP, okay? It's got to be electronic in nature. It's got to be something you cannot hear with your ears, and it's not acoustic at all, all right? These are not EVPs. So on the flip side of that, you have disembodied voice phenomena, which I call DVP. This is something you can hear. This is something in the environment. It bounces off things. It vibrates things. It can be heard. Let's see some of these comments. Gavin says hi. Oh, it's Joe, not Gavin. Okay, sorry about that. Gavin who? Did I not say his last name right? Or are you trying to say that you don't know who Gavin is? That's hilarious. What do you think about the old AM FM radios? We'll get to that. But we have disembodied voice and phenomena. That's even stranger. You'll hear a voice coming out of the thin air. Don't even ask me how that. I have just like theories out of left field how that may be possible, but that is the most strangest thing yet. Okay, no one knows what causes that. All I know is condenser microphones are best used for that type of stuff because they catch the whispery stuff easier and the ambient noise stuff easier. So don't use dynamic microphones to do that. And then we have what I want to call, I think it's, let me see what I put in my description of my video. Let me make sure I get this right. Because I just came up with this idea and what to call it. ASP, that's what I thought, audio sensory phenomena. And what ASP is footsteps, knocks, bangs, anything that's not speech but could be heard with the ear. And that's, audio sensory. So there's all types of phenomena that can happen that you sense with the ears. It's not just speech. So I just kind of want to group that all into the voice phenomena category. Okay? So we're trying to understand how all these things are possible. All right? Always record in WAV file. Yeah, uncompressed is the best quality to record in. So if your recording device doesn't record in WAV, then you're going to have degraded or less quality. Okay. A question for you, Joe. How do you generally try to do your EVP research? Give me a comment on what the general setup is. Yeah, MP3 is compressed. You're all right. And it's not raw is photography, not I guess you could say it, but it's not used in audio engineering. It's uncompressed or WAV. But if you do EVP research and you're watching this, you can comment in the comment section and let us know what devices you use and how do you use it. Do you try to cross-check it and validate it with other microphones or other recorders? What's your process? But our process is the RVPR system, and we'll see if we can get that popped up here for you. Here, let me go back to the main screen and let me find it first. Let me open up a file. Go to my pictures. Sorry I didn't have this up before, but I didn't know if I was going to show this or not. That's the SB11 setup. I'll show that here in a second, but I'm looking for the RVPR. There we go. I got to use another way to open it. All right, we'll drag this over here. All right, here we go. Well, we'll drag it over here then if it wants to use that screen. Okay. Joe says, I use 3 mics, my camera mic, my shotgun mic, and the DR05. Okay. Sam says, I've always heard without a word said, show me somehow. Okay. What you're seeing here in the image here is how we do it. We use the same type of microphone on both sides just because different recording devices have different specs. They have different pickup patterns, they have different bit rates, and they have different frequency responses. So that's not the most optimal way to cross-check with. If something comes across at a certain frequency and a certain direction in a certain way, you're going to want to use the same microphones. Okay, so your cross-checking is going to be really, really accurate. Okay, and that's my opinion on that. So we use 2 shotgun mics on the left and right. If you want to know what kind of mics I'm using, just let me know in the comments and I'll tell you. This setup here is called an RVPR Mark II-ID, and the ID is the interface depth version of the Roundtree Voice Phenomena Recorder Mark II subset version. It's a 4-channel recorder with 2 external mics and the stereo condenser mics there. So the theory is, if one of the channels and one mic capture something and the other 3 do not, then you just validated an EVP. If they come across the Rhodes, both the Rhodes, but not on the condenser mic, that also can be a validation. Okay, but if they come across all of them, then they are acoustic. Then what you just picked up is something you can hear acoustically, even though you didn't hear it at the time. That does not mean that it's not acoustic. All right, so this is why we use this setup. You don't need two mics. All you need is just a separate one, but we use two just for more coverage and more independent variables. So that's pretty much what we do. It comes with a grip. You can put it on a tripod or just dismount the top plate of the tripod and just carry it around mobily. We have everything shock mounted, so if you are hand holding it, the vibrations from hand holding it doesn't transfer as much to the microphone. So that is the best way we can come up with. If you're outside, use Dead Cat wind filters for all the microphones. So that's how we do that. It's good for electronic voice phenomena and disembodied voice phenomena, both. Okay, Joe says, yep, indeed, Justin, 100% right. You agreed with something I said. I'm not sure what it was, but thanks, buddy. This is cool. Now I'm learning about the tech part, which is I'm not informed with. Yep, this is why I'm doing it. So hopefully you learned something, Sam. If you're interested in this kind of thing, I'm glad that you're willing to learn. Definitely don't learn it off TV. That will not help you. All right, so now that we understand what electronic voice phenomena is, what disembodied voice phenomena is, a little bit about the history and the definition and what people is getting confused about, let's talk about what's bad, okay? What's bad is the RRDR60, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and talk for a long time about how it's bad, but just shortly, okay? It's the worst recorder that you could possibly use to record anything. The frequency response is worse than a child toy recorder, okay? It's recalled. It picks up internal noises at a poor frequency rate that makes it sound like a demon, okay? It's voice activated, so when you're picking up ambient sounds or maybe you're whispering or moving around, it'll pick up little fragments of those sounds and bleed them all together into what might sound like a sentence or a phrase. So that makes it bad, really bad too, okay? And another reason why it's bad is it's not easy to get the audio off of the device and onto a computer for analysis or to put any type of presentation. So the RRDR60 is the worst recorder you can possibly have, but it's the most famous recorder and the most expensive. So you explain that to me. That's the state of the paranormal field now when it comes to EVP research. The very worst recorder you could possibly use is the one everybody's trying to get. So that's one strike against the paranormal field. Derek says we also use Zoom Q8 while audio recorders with a shotgun and Y condenser mics. Yes, we have. Yes, I have that, Derek. Here we go. Here's a kind of a. It's not what he's talking about, but right here you'll see a Zoom Q8 and two mics on the sides. You can put the camera and the mics into it. So we actually have a camera built into our recording setup, so you can record. We can record full spectrum and infrared while we're doing that research. So that is awesome too. Yep, that recorder is crap. Been saying it for years. Yes, and sell for way too much, dude. It's fraud. It's the hugest ripoff ever. And people don't care because they like it, because it gives them something that sounds crazy every time they hit record. So like I started off this live show, that's what people want. They want to use the devices and the apps that gives them something every 5 seconds, and they're like, yay, we're ghost hunters. It's bad, okay? It's bad. Stop it. If anybody's watching this, just please stop it. A $30 recorder for hundreds or thousands, is 100% crap. It's not even worth $30, man. Right now it's worth $5. I wouldn't even pay $5 for that. Okay, so the audio sensory phenomena is something to consider too. Okay, like disembodied footsteps is so common. It might be one of the most common things ever to happen in any paranormal event ever. Okay? So since it's the most common, you want to use equipment to record them in the best way. And that's stereo condenser microphones on a very nice top-end prosumer audio recorder. Tascam DR40, Tascam makes all kinds of audio equipment that's good. Zoom makes all kinds of audio equipment that's good. Even Roland makes good audio equipment. There's a lot of good companies that make good stuff out there. But a lot of people's not using it because they go cheap and they do what's on TV. And the reason they do that is they get more false positives, and that's what they want. The better equipment you use, the less false positives you have. But the footsteps, like when I was at Higgins Sports School, I can't tell how many times Matt Benton told me how crazy the footstep recordings were. And you can't deny it. When you watch back that footage, the footsteps are so crystal clear that it's like, it's not animals. You can definitely tell what it is. So there you go. It's simple. So once we've gone over that, let's look at how microphones work. Let's learn about how microphones work. Okay, let's do that. So we can go into, well, let me catch up the comments. Josh Mender says, "Wish I had some DR60 to sell." You ain't kidding, dude. You may not sleep too well at night, or maybe you would, but you would be a rich mother if you did. Joe says, "We're ghost hunters." I'm not too worried about whether someone calls me a ghost hunter or a paranormal researcher. I don't, it's not a huge deal. But let's get into some more learning, okay? So I'm going to try to go through this graphic quickly. If you have a question on what I'm about to go over and you want me to go over it again, I will, but bear with me here. Now, if you opened up a vocal microphone or a dynamic microphone, you're going to see these components. Okay, you're going to see the cage and windscreen, the transducer, which changes acoustic energy into electrical energy, the transformer, which changes that into electrical signal that the speaker can pick up on, and the XLR pins that plugs in and sends it there. Now you have a negative lead, a positive lead, and a ground lead, and those explain the wires that you see. Okay, so if you go in here quicker and you dissect the transducer, you're going to have a diaphragm. Okay, you're going to see a diaphragm at the front, and this coil with the wires, that's stuck to the diaphragm. So the air and compression waves moves the diaphragm over top this magnet. Okay, and the magnet induces electrical charge every time that coil moves, and the charge moves down the wire into the converter there, and then it converts the unbalanced signal into a balanced audio signal. So now you get a balanced stereo signal, and then it runs it straight down the wire to your amplifier or speakers or whatever setup that you have, and that's how dynamic microphones work. So the theory behind some EVP research states, especially David Roundtree's theories that he started putting out there, is if ghosts and magnetic fields have anything to do with each other, then the magnetic field can affect that coil. It can make the coil move. Okay? So it can make the coil move with the magnet. Okay? So once that coil moves, it's going to send the signals down the wires. Okay? So if a spirit learns how to move that coil in such a way, it can start making noises, pops, crackles, and then later on, it can learn how to talk with it because that diaphragm's moving the coil, and if their magnetic field surrounds that coil, it can start moving it too. Now, the newer vocal mics that I found out has an interference coil. If you have noise-canceling headphones, that works in the same way. It has a little microphone in there, and if it's got ambient outside noise, it sends a signal that cancels out. It doubles that signal. That cancels it out, so you don't hear it. Well, most of them now have noise canceling and interference canceling built into it, so it's not good for EVP research for that hypothesis. So that's why we stopped using dynamic mics. But if you can find dynamic mics without interference coils, you pull them apart. There was an interference coil in the diagram I showed you. So if you pull it apart and you see anything else extra, like an extra little coil, you can't use it. Or you can take it out. Okay, so you can do those two things. Sam says, you know what you're talking about? Well, I've been studying this for the last 5 years. So once you figure it out, it's not bad. Derek says he'd pay $5 and sell it for thousands. You would. They sell all the time. Okay, so now we're going to go over the difference between dynamic microphones and condenser microphones. Sorry, guys. I just now noticed you didn't hear me. So let me back that up. I forgot to add my microphone to that. So we're gonna go over that again. Sorry about that. Let's do that again. Okay, the operating principle of how sound is converted into electrical signals. The dynamic transducer and the condenser transducer. I feel silly now. All right. As your voice hits the diaphragm, it moves the coil over the magnet. Now, magnetic fields induce charge in coils. So that's how this works. So once that coil moves over the magnet and moves over the field lines of the magnet, it will induce a charge. Now, these dynamic transducers are good for handling loud sounds without distortion. That's why rock and roll singers use them. Not good for distance or quiet sources. So they're not good for, like, the whispery EVPs or anything like that. It's got very, very limited high frequency detail. So on the high end, it's not very good. It's good for mid and low end. And it's got limited mounting options. It's not easy to mount anything than a mic stand. Now we have what's in your little digital recorders. You have a electrically conductive diaphragm right there. Okay? So when your voice hits that, it changes the charge in the backplate. And these variances in charges is what causes the electrical signal being sent to the converter. Okay? So condenser microphones are good for more high frequency detail. They're good. They pick up the whispers like super good. Like you'll hear someone whisper from 100 yards away sometimes if you're pointed at, we captured Missy Vastine whispering from like 20 yards away like she was right there. Good for distance or quiet sources. So that's why you got to be careful. More mounting options, less visibility, easier to use. That's why they put them in the digital recorders. Okay, so that's the difference. And the other microphone that we've seen, the shotgun mic, it's a condenser mic, but it has a long tube, and the slots on the side it's called an interference tube. So when this is really techie, okay? But there's this thing called cancellation and aliasing. Okay, so if the audio waves go inside those little slots, they interfere and they cancel each other out. So they don't have a pickup pattern on the sides. Do I have one here? Yeah, I do. So on the sides, it has these lines, and on the front, it has where it likes to pick up. So that's how that works. Any questions on how any of that works or anything? Because you're going to get an audio engineering lesson on this episode. Don't all jump out at once. If you have any questions about any other pieces of equipment or microphones, you can get a hold of me later. You don't have to bring it up in this live stream. Let's see how many people I got now. Peak concurrent was 8, so I don't know how many I got now. Olympic recorders, most of them that I've used are very decent. It depends on the brand or the make and the model number of the Olympic recorder. If it doesn't have stereo microphones, you might want to get in. I would suggest getting a stereo microphone adapter to get a stereo signal. It's easier to listen back to a stereo recording. You can tell if the sound's coming to the left or to the right, and it's just better. So if your Olympus recorder doesn't have a stereo mic built into it, get an adapter. And if you need me to provide you a link to an adapter, I can do that. But that's what I would do if you're using something like that. Alrighty. What time do we got? 7:39. Okay. I don't have any other little lectures or little diagrams to show you, but I just figured I would put together this live stream and talk about voice phenomena in general. Okay. Do I believe that it's real? Yes, but it's very rare. Okay. Most of what you're here going to hear footsteps. Okay. You might hear a bang. That's not the settling of, a building. It's not the contraction of, cooling and heating duct. It's not the creaking of boards when the old building starts to cool down at night. Every once in a while, you'll get something like impact the structure of something or hit something next to you. Those are more common than even disembodied voice phenomena. So the next most common thing is a disembodied voice. Okay, hearing a scream, hearing a voice call to you from down the hall, hearing your name whispered in your ear, all those things are even more common in electronic voice phenomena. The most rarest thing is a validated EVP. So what's cool about the EVP is it's easier to prove that it's paranormal because depending on if you're doing the setups right, you can prove that it's anomalous and not coming from something in the environment that just sounds like a voice. So we can't have an EVP or voice phenomena discussion without talking about audio pareidolia. So if you don't know what audio pareidolia is, we're going to discuss that. And then we'll do a little bit about the spirit boxes and ITC, since that is involved. Pareidolia is the brain hearing something. It may not have understood what it heard, so it will compensate and guess. The brain almost works like an algorithm that try to make sense of something with not much information. So if you didn't hear something correctly, you'll guess about what it said, especially if you're trying really hard. If you listen to rain, you'll hear voices in rain. You'll hear voices in box fans, any type of natural white noise. You'll hear stuff, and then you'll hear stuff in the white noise recorders, and especially if they're bad, noisy, crappy recorders, you will hear stuff that's not actually what it is. Okay? You ever hear a gargled EVP on a paranormal show, and they'll play it without a subtitle first, and you have no idea what it says, but then they replay it, and they put a word up there, and then you'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what it's saying. Nope, that's audio pareidolia. If you cannot hear what it says perfectly the first time without anybody telling you, and if everybody agrees what they're hearing, that's a class A. When you're hearing me talk now, you're not relying on a replay and a subtitle to understand what I'm saying right now. Okay? So that's how you want to go about determining if it's a class A EVP or something that you need to consider as paranormal at all. Okay? So that goes into next discussion with ghost boxes. Okay, Frank Sumption, I think in 2003, started making AM radios that swept linearly sweep through the AM spectrum without muting. And from the radio bits, he believed that he was communicating with extraterrestrial voices or interdimensional beings. He didn't necessarily think that he was communicating with spirits, but he was open to that possibility as well. And people started using that as a possibility. So Frank Sumption was almost like a Nikola Tesla, where he was developing these devices that he was hearing things and he thought they were from outer space or from some other dimension. So that's kind of the same, okay? But audio pareidolia is so bad when it comes to ghost boxes. Let me get to this comment real quick. Sound challenge location, Hills Bar Dam Nightmare. Yeah, that's got a long echoey corridor, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it, Joe? It's really echoey, and then there's water noise out the yin-yang. Been there 6 times, going back on the May 5th. So yeah, a lot of audio that's coming from there. It's going to be hard to determine anything. If you want me to give you some suggestions on what to do about those few problems I mentioned, you can let me know, either now or later in a message. But ghost boxes, they give you something constantly. I know if you've seen our videos, interface death videos, we use white noise. We're trying to get something to come through when we're not receiving any RF. But most people rely on the RF because it provides a lot of audio for you to, perceive something coming from it. And it's just not, you can't validate it. They think that they're using the audio bits, but they don't do anything they can't do anything to prove it. Now, I do have Spirit Box setups that validates, okay? And I don't have a picture of them, or do I? Yeah, I have a picture of one. Let's go over this. Let's go here. All right. So what you're seeing here, disregard the millimeter. Okay, what you're seeing here is an SB11 setup. This is one of the setups that we use, and we'll just explain this one. It's got 2 radios in the Spirit Box, so it's got 2 channels. We're using a 4-channel PCM recorder on the left there. We're running splitters out of channel 1 and channel 2 of the SB11. On one side of the splitter in channel 1 is being ran into the external channel on the recorder. The other channel splitter, one of those, is being run into the other side. Okay, so we're independently recording channel 1 and channel 2. Now, the other splitters on both channel 1 and 2 are being split back down into 1 and going into the one speaker. So we're listening to what the Spirit Box is doing live, and then we're recording it internally. So you get to hear what's coming out of it live and what's recording it internally, and you're recording what's coming out of the speaker with the 2 condenser mics. So you can cross-check that way. You can tell if the Spirit voices are coming from inside the box, or they're manipulating the speaker before it comes out, or if they're manipulating it in the air before it goes back into these recorders. Okay? So that's the setup that we most likely use all the time. Sam says, can't even remember, but the 1971 device you posted with all different language, what you think about that device? That's the Raudive recorder. That's the Raudive mic, or it's a Raudive diode. It only picks up electromagnetic frequencies. So that's interesting. A lot of people use that. It can't pick up your voice or anything acoustically. It can only pick up electromagnetic fields. So it is possible to pick up something on it. It's going to be rare, but it's nice to use that because you don't get the contamination from anything else. So I would experiment with that if you had the possibility, Sam. My typing skills suck tonight. That's all right, dude. I can't type worth a damn either. But this is what we use with Spirit Boxes and white noise. So that's one thing that we do. Another thing that I brought up on my first Necromancer show, if anybody watched that, they can go to the playlist of the Necromancer show on Facebook or on the website or on this YouTube channel. I think it's on my YouTube channel. You may have to look on the Interface Death page. I may dig it up, but I took 2 SB7s, synced them together on the same channel, on the same band, and synced them at the exact same time and run them into one of the recorders I just showed you and recorded them synced. And I was looking for one of them to be different from the other. And the reason I do that is if it's true that the ghosts, spirits, aliens, what have you, manipulate the RF internally, then one of the SB11s will record something different from the other. If they're both exactly the same, that's the way they should be, and that means that they weren't manipulated. Okay, and if you want to know more about that setup, I can go into detail about it, and I'll actually do a show about it if you want. Again, the other one I have is, I don't have it yet, but you use an FM or AM transmitter. Okay, you plug the Spirit Box into the FM or AM transmitter, and you transmit it to a receiver. And one of the cheaper, most common ones is they use for the Halloween props. You stick a microphone in and you talk to it, and it transmits your voice to a speaker that you use to scare the crap out of the neighborhood kids, like to a skeleton outside or something. That's what I'm talking about. You record what's coming out of the spirit box first, and then run it into the transmitter. And then you record what comes out on the receiving end. 2. You cross-check both those recordings. They should be exactly the same. If they're not the same, if they're different on the receiving end, then you've proven that they modulate the AM or FM waves before it hits the receiver. So that's the second way you can prove something, manipulating it. No one does that. I suggested, I've had people on Necromancer, I have people on the shows, I tell all kinds of people it, they don't do it. I don't know why. Maybe it's too much work, or it's out of their comfort zone. They're too lazy to change what they've been doing forever. Yeah, I have a little one, but yeah, if you have a raw Eve diode, we can definitely mess with it. Definitely. If we get something on that talking to us, that should not happen. So yeah, Josh, we'll definitely try that if you want. So, what do you guys think about the show? Should I do these? Should I educate people? Should I take time out of my freaking life to do this? I want to. I think it's important. I think maybe at least one I know Josh out there, he's been listening to me for the last how many years? 2 or 3 years, and then he liked it so much that he wanted to join forces. He wanted to cross the streams. Yeah, Derek does too. Derek, the first time Derek showed me he got it from Digital Dowsing. We were at Post Town. I remember it like it was yesterday. He's like, "Should I use this?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, use that. Use that hell out of that." Don't you have deadlights to make, Josh? Oh, that he's not going to like that you said that. Yes, Justin, people need to learn. And Joe, damn it, I want to hear you saying this same goddamn shit to other people. I want you doing it too. You can do it. Everybody can do it. Tell Gavin that you want to go on the damn channel and start doing it. Okay? But I'll end the show with, all the apps out there, the ITC apps, they're bad. Okay? Don't use them. All right? They're all junk. I know Matt Benton developed the Solomon app, and there's a few things on there that are usable and you can validate with, but it's easier just to use legitimate equipment instead of your phone. So, guys, before I wrap up the show, do you want to throw anything out there? Any questions? Anything at all? I am here. I am here for you guys. What should I do on my next show? Tell me what I should do. Should I do a show on strictly ghost boxes? Should I do a show on teaching people how to apply scientific methods and prove hypotheses? I love doing that because it's not only hard to do that, there's not very many people doing that. Joe says, I do, but Zach is the king and know-it-all with the paranormal. No, don't ever say that again. Joe, did you see my paranormal soapbox on Facebook the other day about the SLS camera? I linked it on my, I posted it on my YouTube channel too. That's something Zach wouldn't like very much. Josh Bender says, yep, it's awesome being a part of the group. It is awesome to have Josh. If I didn't have Josh, I wouldn't look this sexy, would I? I think Deadlight looks cool with green lightning. What do you think? Don't it look cool? Green lightning. Too bad we couldn't have fucking chroma keyed video background shit on our t-shirts. That would just be too cool. Thanks, Justin. Just go from where you left here. Anything. Josh is always working on lights. That dude doesn't even feel right if he's not keeping up with those damn lights. He's just not. So I hope you guys learned stuff. I know Josh Bender knows all this crap because he's watched all my videos, and I've said this a lot. But he may have learned a little bit of something with the diagrams I showed. Maybe he can remember some of that stuff and be able to retain that. Sometimes it's hard to, when you're just watching a video and I'm going over it quick. But, there's differences in the different microphones. There's different pickup patterns. So there's different frequencies, responses. There's different bit rates. And then you have analog and digital. And analog is cool and everything. It has a little bit more noise, but it's more analogous, however you say that. It represents the actual sound it records a lot better. But it's very, very easily subjected to interference. So that's why we don't use analog anymore, especially with TV. Because if it gets interfered with, you're going to see static, snow, and it's just poop. So that's why we use digital. It just uses ones and zeros and samples everything and turns it back into sound waves, which is really cool. I watched a video about Grant Wilson saying that he loves analog and he loves magnetic tape, and he thinks that if he sticks a tape out in Gettysburg in a Ziploc bag that he's going to get an EVP on it. No, you're not. You're not going to get a fucking thing. And I guarantee you he's never got anything like that, because if he did, we would know about it. He'd be famous. You're welcome, Sam. I appreciate all the support from you guys that I get. I don't have a screen to show the Patreons, but we got Matt Benton, Clay Borman, and Matthew Jackson still pledging on Patreon, which I very much appreciate. You don't know how much I appreciate it. Please, guys, there's a link to the Patreon in the description of this video. Please give me $1 a month, okay? I'm working my ass off. You can tell how tired I am. I just did 2 hours of practice softball with my daughter. I've been working on this presentation for the live stream today. I'm starting to do, the review to Josh Bender's new light that he just came out with. I'm not asking for much. If everybody I knew that supported me pledged $1 a month on my Patreon, it would help a lot, okay? And then it would show me that all this work I've been doing has been worth it, okay? So please, go over to Patreon, stick $1 in there. You get rewards, okay? If you want to, put more in there, you get even more rewards. There's t-shirts, DVDs, decals, stickers, hats. I mean, hit it up. Hit it up, guys. Joe says, I'm going to try that tape and a bag trick. Let me know how that goes. It's a great review. Trying to green glitter pink print. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. You guys have a good one. You know how to get a hold of me if you have any more questions or if you want to chat. Missy, I love our team too. Tell Derek that I've been thinking about him, and hope everything's going good with the first shift. And can't wait till next month, because we're going to Hartford City, Indiana, to the jail out there. So we're going to shoot a documentary out there. It's going to be fun. You guys have a good one. Thanks so much. Thanks to the Patreon supporters. Thank you for watching this and supporting me. You guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.